Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we are going to be talking about those weird moments in life when things just seem to line up a little too perfectly.
Coincidences.
Exactly. Like, what are the odds?
It's really fascinating, right?
Yeah, we've all had them, I think, or, at least heard stories about them.
Yeah.
But we're going to look at a really specific example today from someone who detailed 3 events in their life that just make you wonder if there's something more going on.
Like some sort of hidden hand orchestrating thing.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump right into the first one.
Yeah.
This person was in rehab, recovering from an accident, and was just about to be sent home.
Oh, wow.
And then right at that moment, a new program starts up at the facility, and it turns out to be like the perfect fit for their needs, almost like it was waiting for them.
That's incredible. What are the chances?
I know, right? It feels almost too perfect to be just random chance.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, from a statistical standpoint, it's really hard to calculate the actual odds of something like that happening.
Okay.
Well, think about it. We'd need to know all sorts of information, like how many other patients were eligible for the program,
Right.
the specific criteria they used to select participants, and even the decision-making process behind it all. Without those details, it's almost impossible to say how likely or unlikely this event truly was.
So even though it feels like a 1 in a million chance.
It could be much more common than we think. It's just that our brains tend to focus on the events that stand out as extraordinary.
So we remember the hits and forget the misses.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, we see what we want to see.
That makes sense.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
so moving on to the second coincidence. This person needed a wheelchair-accessible van after their accident.
A pretty specific need.
Yeah, and guess what? A family they already knew just happened to have one for sale.
Oh, wow. So they didn't even have to go searching for it.
Nope, it just fell right into their lap.
Yeah.
Talk about lucky.
Well, it's interesting because this kind of ties into the concept of 6 degrees of separation. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, it's the idea that everyone is connected to everyone else
Yeah.
by just a few steps.
Yeah.
Like a friend of a friend kind of thing.
Exactly. And it really highlights how interconnected we all are. Sometimes those connections lead to these seemingly impossible coincidences.
It's funny you mentioned that because something similar happened to me a while back. I was trying to find this really rare book for a research project I was working on.
Oh.
And I was having the hardest time finding it. Like, I searched everywhere. Online libraries, used bookstores, you name it.
Sounds frustrating.
I was starting to lose hope, but then I was talking to a friend about it, and she was like, oh, my cousin's roommate actually collects old books. So I reached out to them, and wouldn't you believe it, they had the exact book I was looking for.
That's amazing.
It was such a relief, and it really made me think about how those social connections can sometimes lead to the most unexpected outcomes.
Absolutely. It shows how even seemingly random events can often be traced back to this intricate web of human relationships.
It's like that saying, it's a small world after all.
Definitely. All right, so on to the third coincidence, and this one's a bit of a head scratcher.
This one really makes you wonder.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Okay, so get this. The author's parents had installed wheelchair-accessible doors in their house 2 years before he had the accident.
Wait, so they had no way of knowing that he would need those doors later on?
Exactly. It's like they had some kind of premonition or something.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you consider the possibility of things like premonitions or some kind of subconscious awareness.
Right.
But we also have to remember that chance and probability play a huge role in our lives. Sometimes events just happen to align in ways that seem meaningful, even if it's purely coincidental.
True. But how do you explain that feeling? Like when something happens, you just get this gut instinct that it's more than just chance.
That's where the idea of confirmation bias comes in.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, it's basically the tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs or ideas.
Oh, so if someone already believes in premonitions, for example.
They might be more likely to interpret this coincidence as evidence to support their belief, even if it's statistically no more significant than any other random event.
That's really interesting. So it's like our brains are trying to find patterns even when they might not be there.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how we're wired to process information.
So I've got these 3 coincidences, each one seemingly defying the odds. But after talking through it all, I'm still kind of left wondering, what's the takeaway here? Should we just chalk it all up to chance, or is there something deeper we should be considering?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, there's no easy answer. We've talked about how our perception of these events can be shaped by things like hidden information, social interconnectedness, and even our own biases. But ultimately, it comes down to what you choose to believe. Do you see these coincidences as pure chance, or do you sense a pattern, a deeper meaning beyond the obvious?
It's definitely a lot to think about.
It is, but that's the beauty of it. There's no right or wrong answer, just different
Hmm.
perspectives.
And who knows, maybe by looking at the world through this lens of coincidence, we might start to see those hidden connections and patterns that we've been missing all along.
Maybe we'll find that the universe is a lot more interconnected than we ever imagined.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive today.
It's been a pleasure.
And for all of you listening out there, keep an eye out for those coincidences in your own lives. You never know what you might discover.
And remember, sometimes the most unexpected events can lead us to the most profound insights.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, keep those minds open.
And who knows, maybe we'll run into each other again somewhere down the line. It would be quite the coincidence, wouldn't it?
You bet it would.
Take care, everyone.
See you later.